right. Have we started? I'm not sure. Yes, we have participants in. Hello, everyone. I can see people starting to come in, so that's good. It means we're doing this properly. Bear with us. This is actually the first time that we're running one of these webinars for couples, so we are very excited, but we are also total noobs, so... anyways, welcome, everyone. Hope you've got your little glass of wine. I have my bottle with me, and I'm... Nice. What are you drinking, Mills?
I have a Moscato. It's not very nice, though. It's the only thing that was in the cupboard. But it'll do.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry for you. I have rosé. Cheers, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Clink. Welcome, and thank you for joining us tonight to talk about destination weddings. We are just so beyond excited. I think people are still coming in as I speak. But we've got quite a few people coming in, so that is great. While people start coming in, I am going to launch a little poll because we want to hear a little bit about you and get to know you a little bit as much as we want you to get to know us. Tonight is really an interactive session, and we really want you to be engaged and make sure that you participate in the chat. So you should be able to see a poll. Oh, yes, I can see people starting to answer the poll. That is great. And the chat should now be open to everyone as well. So maybe if somebody could test that out and just say hi, that would be super helpful. Anyways, this is going to be a very raw and real webinar. So yeah, we're super excited to be here. So tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, when you got engaged. Is your wedding already booked? So I can see we've got a few people from Vic, Queensland. So nice to have you here, Queenslanders. We know you've had it a bit rough over the last few weeks, so it's lovely to have you here with us tonight. We've got some South Australian people here. A few people got engaged 1 to 3 months ago, 3 to 6 months ago. Those are kind of the only two that we're getting at the moment, so that's cool. Congratulations. How exciting. Most of you don't have a wedding already booked, which is also super exciting. So I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but I'm assuming a lot of you are still in that consideration phase. So you're kind of waiting to see whether or not you actually want a destination wedding, and what that might look like for you, and wanting maybe some comparison. So we're going to be talking about that. And then maybe you're just really set on wanting a destination wedding, which is great because we're obviously going to be talking a lot about that. And cool. Alrighty. So I'm just going to I'm going to keep the poll running, I guess. And I will share a little bit about what I'm most looking forward to tonight. I don't know if people are testing out the chat or not. Can somebody send a message in the chat? Are you seeing anything in the chat, Amelia?
Nothing in the chat yet. Come on, guys, talk to us.
Talk to us. As much as we love talking to each other, we talk to each other every single day. So yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Hopefully it's not a technical error because we're also hoping for some questions to answer. So, I'm getting stuff in the Q&A. The chat seems to be disabled. Okay. Oh, okay. Let's try this. 2 secs. Let's try now. Thanks, everybody, for telling us. Hey, there you go. Yay! Amazing. We are all learning together. That's great. Thank you so much. Anyways, what I am most looking forward to tonight, obviously, is sharing a little bit with you on my wedding. I love talking about my wedding. But then also just helping you figure out whether you have decided that you want a destination wedding and you just want some useful advice, or you are still wondering whether or not you want a destination wedding versus an Australian wedding. My hope is that you leave with a bit more clarity and feeling really confident with your wedding planning after this. So hopefully we will achieve that. And then I'm also just excited to spend the evening with you, Amelia. It's going to be super fun.
That's cute.
How about you?
I have to say, most looking forward to getting to know everyone. We obviously at Easy Weddings, we kind of work with the couples all the way through. So it's super exciting to get to know you, see where you're at in the journey, and see how we can help.
Definitely. Yay. Oh, okay. Super exciting. We can see people coming in. So I'll just do a little bit of housekeeping before we get into it. Um, so firstly, this webinar is being recorded. So if for any reason you need to leave or you can't stay till the end, you will get a recording in your inbox tomorrow. I'll send an email with the replay. So yeah, if you need to leave because you really don't want to miss the maths dinner party, which I am getting FOMO about, but obviously would rather be here. Or if you've got the little ones wanting your attention or whatever it is, feel free to leave. You will get a replay. But obviously, we are here to answer your questions, so ask all the questions that you possibly can. Again, if you can't stay till the end to hear the answers to them, you'll get the replay. We'll try to answer the questions at the end, but if there are questions that come through that are relevant to whatever we're talking about, and I can interject, I've got an eye on the chat, so I will definitely interject if needed, but we'll try to keep them to the end because we do want you to stay with us until the very end. If you are super excited to be planning your wedding and getting started on wedding planning and you want to, brag about it on your socials, take a photo of us. We're both looking really cute tonight, if I do say so myself. So we would love to be on your socials and tag us at Easy Weddings on Instagram. If you're here, you probably already follow us, but if you don't, go do that as well. And then after the event, please reach out for any guidance. Obviously, our main goal is to help you with your wedding planning. Especially Amelia, because she is the expert here. I'm more just the social gal. But if you do DM us on Instagram, you will be talking straight to me. So please feel free to reach out and we will offer any guidance that we can. If questions come up after the event that you didn't think of today, yeah, just email us or reach out via DM. That's all I have to say on that. Alrighty, let's get straight into it. Amelia, tell us a little bit about you and your wedding. We want to hear all about it.
My favorite topic. So I am the Destination Weddings Manager here at Easy Weddings. So I look after our Destination Weddings team, which is super exciting. And Bali is my absolute favorite place in the world. I got engaged in Bali and then we decided to get married in Bali as well. So it's obviously very special to myself and Michael, my husband. So we got married at a place called Bali Beach Glamping, which is in Tabanan, which is up north in Bali. It's quite far away from everything, but we kind of liked that idea. We bought out the property for 2 days and we did our wedding and recovery celebrations there, which was just perfect because we didn't have guests kind of wandering off down to the pub to watch the footy or go down to the shops to see what handbags they could buy. They were all really present and on site for 2 days straight, which was fantastic. We did, on the wedding day, my girls and I got ready in the bridal suite, so we were there nice and early and we had breakfast and everything on site, and then had a bunch of wedding planners on ground kind of running around doing everything for me, so it was perfect. I got to really relax and enjoy it. And then we kind of did live stations, gelati stations, and a really chilled dinner, which was sharing style. And it was just casual and lots of fun. We didn't do too many formalities. We wanted it just to be a really big celebration. Initially, we thought we would only get maybe like 30 or 40 guests, but ended up with 90. So we were in shock horror and we didn't budget for that, but that's okay. It was lots of fun. And we had fireworks and a DJ with sax player. It was just the best time ever. It finished up at about midnight and then we all just jumped in the pool, which was probably my favorite part. And then, like I said, we had the recovery day the next day, which was amazing. It was so relaxed. Everyone was talking about the wedding and what they loved from it, just chilling in the pool. We had a really nice breakfast. And yeah, it was just the best day ever. We had everyone on site. There was no general public. We kind of bought out the property for the 2 days. So everyone was sleeping on site and waking up in the morning to each other, and it was just so magical.
Amazing. Take me back, honestly.
Yeah, literally. I said to my husband, I'm like, can we do our 1 year anniversary the exact same and just like mimic everything that happened?
I know. We'll get into that, but I feel like that's one of the things that's like so hard is like, you're just like, I've said that as well, like, let's just go back to our wedding venue for like an anniversary, but you're never going to be able to replicate that. It's just so special.
You cannot recreate it.
Yeah.
No. Not at all.
Amazing. I will share a little bit about my wedding. So I, like you, Amelia, I got married in Indonesia last year, May 1st. Very easy to remember for my husband, who's not good with dates. The first of every month is some kind of anniversary. So yes, we actually got married on Lombok, which is the next island east from Bali. Um, the way that we picked, I know, Amelia, it's a bit different for you because like I remember I've been at Easy Weddings for just about 4 years, and you've been here for about 5 years. And I remember when I first started at Easy Weddings, you had your venue picked like so, like you knew, you were like,
I
no,
wasn't engaged. I was not
you were
engaged.
not
Let's just put that
engaged.
out there.
And I
I
remember
knew
when,
exactly what I wanted.
because I got engaged before you. And I remember looking at Bali Beach Glamping and I was like, ooh, I think I found the place. And you were like, I'm getting married there. And I was like, okay, cool.
Sorry, I was.
You weren't even engaged. Anyways, it's fine. My wedding venue was just as nice. It's called the Jiva Kluwi in Lombok. It's not one of our venues, but if you did want to get married there, I'm sure we could help with that. It's a really small hotel, 35 bedrooms. It's like a resort. And we had 70 guests. So we filled out the whole place, just like you, Mills. We had a full buyout. So we had the buyout actually for the welcome dinner and then for the wedding night as well. And then people kind of started trickling off after the recovery brunch the next day. I say recovery brunch, but all the guests had breakfast included. We just added the mimosas on top. So that was, yeah, it was pretty chill. But it was just the most magical day. Like the welcome dinner was amazing. We got like Mexican caterers to come to the hotel and we had like a Mexican fiesta. It's our favorite cuisine, me and my husband. So that was just so much fun, and just being in like actual paradise with all of our people, like the knowing that we're never going to be able to recreate that, I think makes it that much more special. Um, and yeah, then the whole wedding got ready with the bridesmaids, like all that, did all that stuff, and it was really hot and we were all very sweaty, but it was just the most incredible time. And if I had to do it all again, I would 100%, and I'm not trying to sell this to anyone. Obviously, we're here to talk about this, so I am going to say I would have a destination wedding all over again 100%. I always wanted to have a destination wedding, so I am from the States originally, and I always thought growing up, picturing my wedding, I always thought that I would like get married in a place like Hawaii or like Mexico, obviously, just being from the States, that's like where you picture. Just like feet in the sand, like tropical paradise with like margaritas, and this was just like a total dream come true. The reason that we picked Lombok was, or Indonesia in general, was because obviously being from overseas, and my partner, my husband, such a flex saying husband, I'm still not used to it. He is from Australia, so regardless of kind of where the wedding was going to happen, people would have to travel. But we wanted to, if they had to spend a lot of money on flights, not have to spend too much money on accommodation. And so Indonesia was a perfect place for us. But I wasn't like you, Amelia, like I wasn't super set on Bali or Indo. I looked at Thailand, Fiji, Bali, like those were kind of the three places that we had in mind. But this place was just ticked all the boxes, and yeah, that's why we picked that one.
I think it's a really good middle ground if you do have family overseas. My whole family's in the UK,
Mm,
and to try and get them to Australia and pay Australian prices for a week or two or however long they were coming was just it's just not right. It's
yeah,
not affordable,
yeah,
and it's not really going to happen, is it? So I think Bali was a really good option for us, being that we had guests coming from all over. We had
mm,
some from Sydney, we had some from Italy, we had some from the UK. It kind of was a really good middle ground that was affordable, and people that had a little bit more money could spend it at resorts that are a little bit more bougie, but then others that wanted to spend $70 a night on
yeah,
a villa could do that as well. So it kind of met everybody's
yeah,
requirements.
yeah, for sure. It was so nice. Um, Alrighty, so we are going to go into why choose a destination wedding. Obviously, like we've given you a few reasons already, I think. But of course, as I mentioned before, like I'm sure a lot of you out there listening tonight or rewatching the replay are kind of hesitating, and like we're really not here to like sell you 100% on a destination wedding. We really just want to give you a bit more clarity, as I said earlier. So Amelia, can you help us a little bit with like just the pros and cons and all the things that you need to consider when it comes to like planning a destination wedding? Because obviously, as many pros as there are also cons, and those are things that you do need to consider when you're planning an expensive and extravagant event such as a wedding.
Absolutely. Yeah, look, there's many that I could list. I'll go through some of the main ones that I see with my couples that I'm speaking to every day, but also what I faced as well, having a destination wedding.
Yeah.
I think there's, I'll go with the cons first, because obviously we'll get them out of the way and then talk about the exciting stuff. I think guest list is one of them, and you could see that as a pro or a con, but you do end up getting a smaller guest list, which is sometimes it's a little bit heartbreaking. You might not be able to have nanny there. You might not be able to have, someone who's in care facilities, or someone that just can't travel really, financially, all of those kind of reasons. But you do naturally get a smaller guest list, and we were really prepared for that. Michael and I were 100% okay if it was just the two of us, or just the two of us and our immediate family, but we were very fortunate that everyone was super excited to go on a holiday with us, and we ended up getting about 90 people, like I said. But there is that risk that you will get 10, 15, maybe 20 guests. So you do have to kind of be prepared for that. Whereas if you're in Australia, it's so easy to attend these weddings. It's on a Saturday, people have finished work, they can come down to the city and enjoy the night and kind of go back to their commitments the next day. Whereas when you're having a destination wedding, the guests and obviously yourself, you need to kind of consider annual leave. Can you take time off work? Can you organize something for the kids or the pets? You might have
I was
pets.
literally just thinking the dog.
Yeah. What are you going to do with your dog? I know. Yeah. So that was a big factor for my sister. She is absolutely obsessed with her golden retriever, and she was fretting, like, what am I going to do with my dog?
Yeah.
So it is all of those things that you need to factor in. So having a smaller guest list can be a good thing, but it also could be a bad thing as well if there's really important people that you might not be able to get there.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pro and a con. I think something else I found, and I hear this a lot from my couples, is the opinions. So having a destination wedding can seem to others quite selfish. At the end of the day, I harp on about the fact that it is what you and your partner want. It's all about you, and it shouldn't be like, we're in a really modern day. It shouldn't be about all those old traditions where it needs to be what the parents want and all that kind of thing, because they're putting in a little bit of money to help you out. I think at the end of the day, if you're wanting a destination wedding, you should go for that. But it does kind of come with those opinions from not only friends, but family and others around. Like, oh my gosh, how dare they go to Bali? It's going to cost us a fortune and all this kind of stuff. So that's something you need to factor in as well. I think that's a really hard conversation to have, but we do kind of have tips and tricks on how to get around that. And we talk to our couples about that every single day.
Yeah.
But having those conversations is quite tricky because it's hard to make a decision and close off people's opinions. So that's probably another con that I find quite often with my couples that I speak with every day. I think, financially, a lot of people think that a destination wedding is cheaper. It's not, and I'll put that out there really early. It is quite similar to what you would pay in Australia for a wedding. The difference is that it's one day here in Australia, which will be absolutely incredible, but in the destination you could be getting 2, 3, even 5 days, depending on how you kind of work that budget. So we guide you through all of that here at Easy Weddings, and I'd love to chat to you all about how to manage that budget and work with that budget. But at the end of the day, it's that comparison on whether you're wanting just the one day or you might be getting a couple of days with lots of value for money in terms of like the venues kind of throw all these amazing things at you. Like in Fiji, you might have Fijian warriors to walk you down the aisle. In Bali, you might have, you might be able to put on an 8-hour drinks package, which, let's be honest, we couldn't afford that in Australia. I had an 8-hour drinks package. It was all cocktails and spirits, and I was like, this is so cheap considering what we would pay in Australia for just one cocktail. So that blew me out of the water. And I think in terms of pros, this is kind of all the really exciting stuff. I think having a holiday and a wedding all in one is just the most amazing thing, because you've got all of your immediate family and friends in the one place with no other concerns, no other commitments. They're kind of really there and really present and just enjoying every single moment with you. One of my favorite things about my wedding was that we got to spend really good quality time with every single person that came. And I find that when you go to a wedding in Australia, it's hard because it's 8 hours, and to try and get to 100 people or 80 people or however many people you've got, when you've got all the formalities to go along with it, is quite tricky. So I think that's a really great thing about a destination wedding. You can spend a couple of days and you can really spend all that time with your guests, and they're not rushing off to kids or work or other commitments, which is fantastic. So that was one of my favorite things. And again, I'll harp on about that value for money piece. Like it might not be cheaper than Australian wedding, but you are getting so many things that you wouldn't be able to get here in Australia.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think for sure, like one of the things for me personally was very similar of like just getting that time to like take mental pictures of everything. Like you just like, you relax and you have time to like spend, especially if you have people coming from overseas that you haven't seen in like, you know, like family that you haven't seen in years or whatever. Like it's just so nice that you don't feel like obligated because you only have like an 8-hour day to, you know, try to catch up, even though it's like your day and it's all about you, and you don't really want to catch up with, you know, old auntie that you haven't seen in 5 years. You don't really actually like maybe care that much, you know. But it's just so nice to be able to be like, oh, this is just like breakfast one day. I'll go speak to old auntie that I haven't seen in 5 years and like make her feel like I really appreciate that she came all the way to the other side of the world for me. And just, yeah, I'll talk about my favorite memory in a sec, but it was along those lines. I'll keep the suspense going. What about all the other considerations, like things that maybe people don't think too much about when they're starting to plan a paradise wedding?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think people do get carried away in terms of excitement, and they just like destination wedding. Yes, let's do it. And there's lots of things that they don't consider. One of the biggest things that comes up is a lot of my couples aren't aware that you do, or we prefer that you get legally married in Australia first. It can be quite tricky in the destinations to have that legalised in Australia. So we tend to advise couples to go down to the registry office, get legally married here in Australia first, and then it's quite a seamless process in these destinations because you don't have to worry about documentation, going down to the registry office, all that kind of stuff. In Fiji, it is definitely legal and you can make it happen quite easily with the paperwork that's involved. You do have to go down to the local registry the day before the wedding, so that kind of takes up some time of the journey that you're on. In Bali, it's almost impossible to legalise over there. It's really, really tricky. So we do kind of push for Bali weddings and Thailand for some as well to get legally married here in Australia. So that's definitely something you need to consider. And Emma and I were actually chatting about this yesterday, whether we thought it was exciting to get married twice or whether it kind of takes out the special moments of the real wedding, I suppose. So that's something to consider as well. We did it before, and I think you did as well, before your wedding, Emma. Which we were quite strict on taking away those special things. So like I didn't wear a wedding dress, for example. I didn't walk down the aisle at the registry. We did quite a quick ceremony. I think it was like 4 minutes or something crazy like that, which was fantastic. But we still made it really fun. Like I wore this amazing suit and we had a photographer and we went down to one of the hotels nearby for dinner and kind of made it really special. But some people might think that is taking the specialness out of it. So some people do choose to kind of do that afterwards. But super flexible. You can do it however way you want it. You could get married the year before, you could get married the year after, but it is something we recommend doing prior to going to these destinations just because it's a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think just like on the point of like making them both special, like I think one of the things like what we spoke about yesterday was like I felt, although I still felt like nervous because I had to say my vows and I had a speech at the big wedding. Not big wedding. It was a big wedding. But I was still nervous, but like I think just because like the deal had been sealed, you know, a week or two prior, I didn't cry walking down the aisle. I was certain that I would cry. I cry at commercial, like at ads. And I didn't cry, and I think that probably took away that kind of extra emotional bit. But one thing that was super special, like on the point of like not having people who might not be able to travel come with you. My husband's Nana, who's like 92 years old, there was no way that she was going to come to Bali. And so we asked her to be our witness, like at the real wedding. So like the legal wedding, which we called the real wedding to make it like a bit more special for her. So she obviously was like devastated not to be able to come to the big wedding. But it made it really special. Like she cried when we asked her and stuff. So like just making those moments. And I know like Michael's dad who couldn't travel, like he came to your Melbourne wedding as well. Like those are kind of the things that make it a little bit sweeter, I guess. Like
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that way you can still have that special moment with those people that are really important in your life, and that way you're kind of getting the best of both worlds, if that makes sense. So we found it was actually really, really fun. We did like I said, we did a really intimate dinner. So we had immediate family and just our bridal party, but that made it really special because it was like celebrating our bridal party.
And it's like a little secret as well. It's kind of like, oh, we're doing this special thing that's like only like for exclusive people kind of thing. It's, Oh, so nice.
And then for everybody else, it was still our real wedding in Bali.
Yeah, exactly. So we've touched on a few of these points already, but let's just talk a little bit about a comparison between having an Australian and a destination wedding and like kind of all the things that you need to consider if you're still like hesitating between both. Take it away.
So I guess a couple of these things we've already mentioned, like the guest list, the legal paperwork, all that kind of stuff. I think, guest list is a tricky one. You do kind of, you see the real in people, I guess. Careful as I want to say that, because of those opinions, you kind of see who really, really cares about you, and you will find that there will be, and this is like really with any special event, I find people kind of work out who their true friends and family are and who really, really cares about them and who wants to be there and see the best day of their lives and things like that. But it does it's something that you need to consider because I did lose friendships over it. I had arguments with my family, people from the UK that, you know, aunties and uncles and things like that. I kind of worked my whole day around them and they didn't show, which was, I mean, they didn't RSVP, but they basically said no after they told me that they would come on that date. So guest list is one that I kind of really harp on about because you don't get the guest list that you expect. But it's not saying that's a bad thing either. Like that was the best thing that happened to me. And now I really, really know, like I had a girlfriend from Dubai who I've been friends with for years and I didn't think she would come, but she came and she made the effort. It was just the most amazing experience ever. So that's something I like really try to focus on. Cost, obviously, yes, we've gone on about this as well. Destination wedding is not cheaper than a wedding in Australia. And it does sound like you could get a wedding in Bali for $15,000 for 80 people, but it's just not, it doesn't happen that way. And with cost of living, these destinations are increasing like they are in Australia. So that's something that we need to consider and kind of understand that you're getting the value for money. It's not going to be cheaper, but you're getting the value for money over there in these destinations. Venue options. In Australia, you kind of have your pick on the style of venue that you want. You might want a winery or you might want a bookroom, a warehouse. In these destinations, you're going there to have a beachfront or a water view or like something outdoors, which is exactly what I wanted. And I know a lot of people I speak to daily want that outdoor wedding. It is really important to kind of understand that it's not always possible with these destinations. It's exactly like Australia. You can't bank on the weather. You never know what's going to happen. So it is really important to have a great weather backup option as well, or talk about marquees or whatever it might be. But I think going to these destinations, you cannot expect to have a really set style wedding that you would have in Australia. Like you can have a Harry Potter themed wedding if you really want to, but it's going to be outdoors on the beach, and I'm not sure that's what Harry Potter is all about. So kind of considering that as well.
Have you had that come through recently, Amelia? Is that
Yeah, we said it actually wasn't me, it was someone in my team, but we have all sorts of like wild requests which we can make it happen, but it's not exactly what you would get if you wanted a Harry Potter theme here in Australia. We could give you a dark warehouse that we could make look really cool. But yes, that's something to consider. It's going to be a beachfront, it's going to be tropical, it's going to be outdoors with fairy lights and long tables, and it's just going to be incredible, but you have to kind of want that vibe.
Yeah.
The planning complexity, I'm going to give us a plug here. This is where we get involved. I planned my wedding before Easy Weddings started doing destination weddings. So Easy Weddings have been around for over 25 years, and we've planned weddings all over Australia for years and years and years. But we got into destination wedding about a year and a half ago, and when I was planning my wedding, I didn't do any through Easy Weddings. I did it all myself. I thought I was a hero because I've been in weddings for so long. I thought I could do it myself, but I didn't. I needed help. It was really, really hard. I think the communication barriers and, not being able to see your venue in person at times.
Yeah.
And, in Australia, you can just go for a drive and go down to the venues and see these venues in person. You can see the nooks and crannies of every single resort. Do they have a bridal suite? Where are the toilets? Where are they based close to the lawn? What do they have in terms of accommodation? Do they have a dance floor? You can't see any of these things.
Yeah.
Unless you go over in person, which a lot of people don't have the opportunity to do. So communication barriers, conversion rates is another one I find gets really tricky. Like, conversion rates are changing every single day. It's also hard to kind of wrap your head around the differences. So we kind of hold your hand through that whole entire process, and we do all of that for you. So we build an all-inclusive package, which is your venue, your suppliers. We take care of all of the run sheets. We help you out throughout the whole entire process. You are not dealing with these people directly until the day of your wedding, which, if that was around when I got married, holy, I would have loved it.
I know.
So I think that's something to consider if you're wanting to go out there and do it on your own. Try and do it earlier so that you have some time to kind of deal with these barriers, or come to us at Easy Weddings and we'll help you out. The weather conditions, I think, again, it's like Australia. You can never predict the weather. In Bali, we had a perfect day in terms of like Google weather coming up for our wedding day, and then as I was walking down the aisle, this big black cloud was following me.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, oh my god, it's gonna rain. And then it held out, but we started doing photos and it started kind of sprinkling as I was doing some photos in the rice fields, and I was like, oh my god, it's gonna rain. What are we gonna do? And it did hold out, and then at like midnight that night when we all started going to bed, it absolutely was torrential rain. So it can happen, and we do have all of the right precautions in place. Our venues know exactly what to do and when to call it and how to change it, and they move it within minutes, but it is something to consider when you're going to a tropical destination. It's not always going to be good weather. Did you have great weather for your wedding?
I actually, as you were saying that, it was so hot, obviously. But I had bought all these like little bamboo fans for everyone. But it was very hot, but the weather was fine the entire time. It was great. And then the next day, it bucketed. Like, it was insane. And we were just like, that was so lucky, because it bucketed down at like 3 p.m. or something, 2 or 3 p.m. And the wedding was at like 5 p.m. And so I was like, if this had happened yesterday, I would have had a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
Even though they had like a wet weather plan and stuff, but I was like, that is not the vision.
It's not what I pictured.
It's not the vision.
No, but we do, like, I've had a couple of weddings recently, in Bali actually specifically, and it's in their rainy season at the minute, and they've planned for an outdoor wedding, and then the staff have been so amazing. They've moved it indoors, and then it stopped raining 20 minutes later, so they moved it back outside, and it was like,
amazing.
The fact that they would do that, they would not do that in Australia.
God, no. Oh my god.
It would be like, you're moving and then you're staying.
Yeah.
Guest experience, I think this is one that Emma and I have harped on about a little bit. Like, there's hesitation when you first book a destination wedding, but when they're there, they're all thanking you and like, oh my god, this has been the best time ever. And I know my guests, they have not stopped talking about it since my wedding day. Like, yours was the best wedding ever. It was because they got to relax for 5 minutes. They didn't have their commission. They didn't have their kids around, like driving them insane. They didn't have commitments.
Yeah.
They didn't have work the next day, and they just really let their hair down and had a really good time. In all of these destinations, we look after weddings in Bali, Fiji, and Thailand. And in all of these destinations, they have nanny services. On our wedding day, we hired I think it was 5 nannies, and they were all at the wedding. And they just played with the kids. They did face painting, and they did or is it what's the balloon shape that, you know how you make
Oh,
shapes out
like
of balloons?
balloon animals?
Yeah, like it was so much
Yeah.
fun. The kids were having a ball and they kind of sat with them while they were eating their dinner and stuff so the parents could let their hair down too. So
Yeah.
that's another amazing thing about these destinations is that they do have kind of activities and nannies for the
Mm,
kids as well. So you can bring the whole family.
yeah.
Um, Vendor selection. Yeah, this is another hard one. When you're trying to choose DJs, photographers, bands, all that kind of stuff, you kind of have in your mind, like, I know I was really set on this one photographer in Australia that I really, really wanted. And I would have dreamt to kind of fly her over to Bali and have her
Yeah.
with me. But it's just, yeah, it's tricky. Like the legalities in Bali specifically, it's not the same for Thailand and Fiji, but Bali, you can't have suppliers and vendors that don't have working visas and living in Indonesia.
Mm,
So that's something you need to consider. And the vendor selections, they don't always do what we want in terms of our style and look and feel that we want. And, you know, you might have a really set photography idea or a really set way of doing your hair and makeup, and it's not always achievable. So you do have to be flexible. I know in Fiji, I have a couple of my couples want Australian florals like roses and all these beautiful florals
yeah.
that you can't necessarily access
Yeah.
in Fiji. So it might have to be more like tropical birds of paradise and those florals
Yeah.
that are really, really tropical and okay in the heat.
Mm,
And just trying to kind of understand that you do have to have that flexibility there. We do have a lot of suppliers, and we have a portfolio here at Easy Weddings that we work with that understand what the Australian couple wants
yeah.
and do have Western teams who can do hair and makeup. My hair and makeup artist, Trove Artistry in Bali, they have a Western team and they have an Indonesian team, so you can kind of choose what suits you best. And my hairdresser was from the UK and my makeup artist was from Brisbane, but they
Yeah.
both were on working visas in Bali.
Yeah.
So that was amazing, but you have to kind of do your research and you have to know where to look. Um, Personalization, this is a tricky one as well. In Australia, we kind of want all different things. We want cocktail weddings, we want sharing style, we want,
Yeah.
to be able to put live stations on. They can personalize things to an extent, but they're good at what they're good at, and
Mm,
they've already got these packages already built, and they kind of don't. There's not much flexibility in taking things out and adding things in. So it's something to consider as well. Like you do, if you're going to these destinations, you do want to play on what they're good at. If they're serving a buffet, they're good at they're good at doing buffets. So don't try and reinvent the wheel and have a plated dinner.
yeah.
If they're not going to be good at it, you want to make sure you're still getting a really good experience. You don't want to be disappointed on the day. So just having that flexibility there again. And honeymoon convenience speaks for itself. You're already in an amazing destination. Go to an island. Go, an hour flight somewhere really tropical and beautiful, just the two of you, and kind of recharge your social battery because it will be done after a week or two with every single one of your guests.
Oh, so nice. Yeah, I know you did that. You stayed back for like 10 days or something?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
went to Ubud. Oh, well, actually, we went to Seminyak for a little bit with the family, just
Yeah.
immediate family,
Yeah.
which was really nice. So mum, dad, sister, and his mum. And then we went off to Ubud, and we just spent time just the two of us, which was beautiful. Massages, and we just went exploring and spent a couple of days in our pool villa, and it was just incredible. I highly recommend. Honeymoon straight after.
Yes, 100%. Before I skip to the next slide, we did get a few questions that I'm going to
Amazing.
ask. Just around the guest experience. Tony asked, what's the best way to look at accommodation for guests so that it's still convenient for them to get to and from the venue? What would you recommend?
We can actually help you out with that as well. So we have a lot of connections with these hotels and venues because we are partnered with them directly. So we get access to really great group rates, which is basically like a rate that you can access really early on. You can secure it and get it out of the way for all of your guests, and they don't have to worry about a thing. We do travel packages, which is basically taking care of accommodation, flights. It might include some really nice massages or perks for the guests as well. So we can actually help out with that too.
Yeah, nice. Another shameless plug.
Mm.
Alrighty,
Do you
time.
get a lot of pressure from your guests? Like, what do I do? Where do I book? What are the hotels around? Like, to take that pressure off, lean on
Yes,
us.
100%. All right, time to talk a little bit more about our weddings.
My
um,
favorite part.
so, this is more like obviously to maybe like help you avoid making some mistakes that we made, because as much as we work in weddings and we see weddings all the time, like we are still human, and there were definitely, I mean, for me there were definitely some challenges to say the least, and also a few regrets if I could go back and do things a bit differently. I can tell you my biggest challenge. Well, actually, I had a few challenges. But one of my biggest challenges was probably definitely like managing family dynamics and expectations. Like, I was very fortunate that my parents gave us some money towards the wedding, and it was very funny because when that conversation first happened, it was like, it's, you do whatever you want with it, it's our gift. If you just want to elope, if you just want to travel with it, like, you don't have to actually use it towards your wedding. And then as soon as it was like wedding planning time, my mom, God bless her soul, I love her so much, but she was just like, input, input, input. And like, if I didn't take on her advice, it would just be a bit of a thing. And like, that was definitely a big challenge. Yeah, that was something. Also, like, silly guest things, like one of our get like well, two of our guests, they're a couple. um he is friends with my husband, and so he was the like, his wife was the plus one, I guess. And so we had sent him the invite with the wedding website link and all that stuff, and obviously he had not read it properly. And before the wedding, we stayed in Bali for a few days, and we had our hens and bucks in Bali, and so a lot of wedding guests stayed in Bali as well, and they met us for the hens and bucks and stuff. And he didn't know that, and so they went straight to Lombok instead of going to Bali, and so they spent extra days in Lombok thinking that our hens and bucks, sorry, would be on. And then his wife, anyways, and I was like, it's all in the wedding website. How did you miss that? It's like so clear. Like, I worked so hard on that dang website. And that was,
you spent months on it. I spent 3 months on my wedding website, and I can't tell you how frustrated I got towards the end. No one was reading it, and they would ask me questions daily, like text messages. Where is this? When is this? What time is this? What do I wear? I'm like, website. Read the website.
Seriously. Oh my gosh. Anyways, what was one of your biggest challenges?
I think for me it was the communication. It's hard work going kind of back and forth and not understanding and trying to communicate via email, or you'll pick up
Yeah.
the phone and it just doesn't make sense. I ended up getting a bright orange wedding cake.
Yes! Oh my god! I remember that. I remember seeing that. No judgment, obviously. Like, that's fine. If you want an orange wedding cake, that's fine. But I remember seeing it and being like, I don't feel like Amelia.
So I asked for a white wedding cake, and
Classic.
it was one of those like beautiful vintage cakes, and it said like
Just
Mr. and
married.
Mrs. or something like that. I can't even remember now.
Yeah.
But yeah, white. And then my wedding planner comes to me on the morning of my wedding, and I was super relaxed, thank God. I was wine, like coffees, croissants,
Yeah.
really just enjoying myself. Says, oh, look, your wedding cake arrived. Shows me a picture, bright orange. And I kind of just bit my lip, and I was like, well, there's nothing I can do about it now. And I just let it go.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I wasn't mad about it at the end. It did look really nice in the photos because it was very like Bali, and everything else was white and green. So it just stood out.
Yeah.
But communication was hard. Like, there are little things that just slip because of it. So
yeah, for sure. What about a regret if you could go back and do something differently?
I was thinking about this. My biggest regret, ladies, listen in. Do not let your husband have a bucks party in Bali the week of your wedding.
I knew that was coming.
So we thought it would be a really good idea to separate, have two villas, a girlies villa and boys villa, and like
Immediately, no.
it's gonna be really chill. Like, it's fun. We'll have a couple of wild days like early on, and then like towards the wedding we'll just drink tea and like really just be chill.
Yeah.
No. So what I didn't know was he's texting me the night before saying, yep, I'm in bed, everything's really chill, good. During our speeches, he says to me, I actually was on the drip this morning. I was really, really unwell. Sorry. I was like, did you have like, were you sick? Did you get food poisoning? What happened? Oh no, I think it's just from drinking all week. And then the cab driver, the Uber driver who dropped the boys off, also picked up my girls who weren't in the bridal party, like just some girls that were coming to the wedding. And they were saying, oh, how funny, like these guys were so drunk last night, showing pictures and like talking about how they had the IV drip the next morning.
Oh my
So my
God.
husband was on an IV drip the day of our wedding and had to go to bed at 10 o'clock at night for an hour to recoup himself. So we lost hubby on our
Oh
wedding
my
night for about an
God.
hour to bed because he needed to rest and like get better.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the groomsmen went and got him at about 11 o'clock to finish out the final few hours of the wedding.
Oh
And
my
then he missed
God.
our recovery. Again, it was the same as you, Emma. We had breakfast included in our
Yeah.
accommodation. So, like, it was very chill and, like, nothing too formal. But
Yeah.
he missed that whole breakfast. Everyone was there talking, like, really exciting memories.
Oh
And,
my
yeah,
God.
he was sleeping. He did enjoy the rest of the recovery day, but missed that. So, do not allow it, ladies.
No, that's fair. That's definitely a good one. Um, I had a different regret, but mine was more tame. Mine was more I I'm not a good public speaker, and I was really nervy about my vows and about my speech. And so while getting ready with my bridesmaids, I think I was just like not really in the moment, and I kind of blacked that whole time out. And we had like 4 hours of getting ready together and stuff, and like they were having a great time, but I was sweating, I was stressed. Thank God my one of my really good friends, Jackie, actually did my makeup. She used to be a makeup artist, and she volunteered to do my makeup, which was so nice. And she was like keeping me grounded, but I still feel like I just kind of blacked that whole time out, and I didn't really like that should have been super special. And like I had one bridesmaid from Europe, I had one bridesmaid from the States, like that I never see. And so yeah, I just wish that I had been a little bit more grounded for that time. But as far as a favorite memory, and I'll keep this very quick because we're already over time. But my favorite memory for sure was the night before the wedding, so the welcome dinner. Everybody was there. We had our Mexican fiesta happening. We had our margaritas in hand, and I was just standing with my husband, now fiance, I guess at the time, and we just like were arm in arm, and we just did like a full 180, and it was just like so incredible being in this like actual paradise. And as far as the eye could see, it was just all of our people, and knowing that like at no other point in our life will all of those people be in the one space at the one time. Like that's never going to happen again. And just like taking that in, like I wish I could say my favorite memory was actually my wedding, but it wasn't. It was the welcome dinner was my favorite. That like I can picture it. I can feel what it feels like still to be in that moment. And yeah, that's definitely by far my favorite memory. I think yours is pretty similar.
Yeah, it's funny you say that.
Yeah.
I wish that the wedding was my favorite memory. I
Yeah.
did have the best time. It was so amazing.
Of
But
course.
the recovery day for me was just it was the best. There was no pressure on. There was no formalities that you had to worry about. You didn't have to worry that your hair and makeup was perfect. We were just having a good old time, and
Mm.
everyone was there. Everyone was really chilled and relaxed, and we just spent the entire day in the pool with some music on. We had pizzas and we had a bonfire late at night. It was the best ever, and everyone was just really present and really there talking about all their favorite memories from the entire trip because we did
Mm.
like a week before
Yeah.
with everyone as well. So yeah, definitely the recovery day for me.
And Michael didn't have to run away to take a nap mid recovery as well, so
He
that's
didn't
good.
know, so he woke up at about 10 o'clock.
That's pretty
No,
good. That's like
11, yeah. And after that, he was good as gold. He had a burger, and then the rest of the day, he was perfect.
that's great. That's all you need. Alrighty, we're just gonna get into your planning tips. We do have a few things to get through. Again, if you have to leave, please feel free, but stick around. We do have a few more questions to get through as well, but I think you're going to cover a lot of them in this, so I'll just let you take it away. And if you have more questions, ask them in the Q&A box, please. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Amelia.
awesome. So where to start? Reach out to me.
Done. Okay, next section.
Next, done. No, I will say, look, we can solve a lot of these problems, but I think where to start, you kind of have to figure out what you want and what's most important to you because, like I said, those opinions do come into it. So try and, set some time aside from all of that, you and your partner, and talk about what you want most. And weigh up all of the pros and cons. Like I had a proper checklist of, why I can do a destination wedding and what could stop me.
Yeah.
And that way you're kind of really in a headspace of what you want and you're certain on what you want. But if you're not sure, book in a consult with us. We can talk through, like we did tonight, but we can talk in further detail about what you're wanting and what the pros and cons are and how we can help. So definitely start there. Timeline and logistics, like the earlier the better in terms of booking a venue and kind of looking into a destination wedding. There's obviously lots of factors. It's not like booking a wedding 20 minutes down the road in the city. It's quite a huge task and there's a lot to it. And like I said, you'll have a lot of people asking questions and wanting, all of the information as early as possible. So the earlier that you can start planning, the more time it gives you. And booking in that venue, once that's done, that's your big ticket item. Once that's locked in, everything else will be kind of smooth sailing from there. And we can help you out, build your wedding websites, all of the information that you'll need for your guests. We can talk about guest travel management, what you'll need in terms of visas, all that kind of stuff. So, I guess just doing it the earlier the better. We're seeing a lot of couples at the moment booking about 14 months out from their wedding day, just to give them enough time. They book the venue and then at about 12 months out, they'll start sending save the dates or invites or whatever it might be. So doing it super early and making sure that they can get everything organised. I think tips for guest management. If you're planting the seed really early, it's not going to be as hard to have these conversations. I found with my mother-in-law, she's Italian and she wanted the big wedding here in Melbourne as she did for her daughter. There was 300 people. And it just wasn't Michael and I. It definitely wasn't me. I was voting for elope all the way. But setting that expectation with her early that we got engaged in Bali, it was super special for us and this is what we wanted. You're either in or out kind of thing. And it wasn't that strict, but you know what I mean? But setting that expectation early, when it came time for us booking the venue, which, by the way, I kind of got engaged and then the next day I went and seen my wedding venue in Bali because it was very convenient. So it all kind of happened quite quickly. We booked our wedding venue and it was within 12 months of when we got engaged. So we had to pre-prepare her early. And like Emma said, I knew what I wanted well before I was engaged.
Yes.
So just giving everyone as much notice as possible, setting out those save the dates early, even if you don't have a venue. If you've got a date in your mind or if you've got like a time frame, then send out a save the date. Just get people's opinions early. I think that's probably going to take the pressure off. Setting clear boundaries to not only yourself but also your guests. Like, I'm not going to have all of this information right away, but once I have all the information, once I've got the wedding website, I will send it out to you. You guys will be the first to know. That way you're kind of avoiding everybody absolutely drowning you in questions.
Although the questions will still come. They won't read the wedding website.
They won't. Like I said earlier, they didn't read my wedding website, but you have something to fall back on and you don't feel guilty about it. You can say to them,
100%.
oh, look, all that information's on my website. Just jump on there and have a read. And it's just, it's a lot easier to do that rather than like kind of saying, they're like, okay, which hotels are close by? Where can I go and get my nails done close by? Well, I've actually given you all of these tips and tricks on my wedding website, so go check it out. And it's like a nice way of telling them to bugger off.
100%.
All the considerations, travel and entry requirements. Obviously, every different destination, depending on where you're going, has different travel requirements. They might have visas you need to purchase in advance. So just really doing your research and making sure that it's convenient to you and your guests and you know kind of what to expect. With Bali specifically, there are some costs involved. Like the visa, I think, is around about 50 Australian dollars. So that's something that you need to consider in as well when you're talking about budgets and things like that. How to fly with expensive items. I always recommend choosing a really good airline. I know it's really within budget to choose someone like, I don't know, Tiger, Jetstar, like those, the really easy and quick airlines, but you've got to think you're traveling with really valuable items. You can't really have delays. You need to be getting there on time, all that kind of stuff. So, looking into who you're going to fly with and making sure that you can have your dress on the plane and, extra baggage and all that
Yeah,
kind
I
of
was gonna
stuff.
say some airlines, I know you, Amelia, you had your dress like stored on board, like it wasn't um checked like a checked item. It was like a yeah, carry on or
Yeah,
whatever.
I always recommend to my couples, don't check, like don't put in the actual luggage your wedding dress, your
Yeah.
suits, your shoes, all that kind of stuff. Take it on board with you. We
Yeah.
were really fortunate that the air hostesses, at the end of the day, it is sometimes up to the air hostesses on a
Yeah.
flight. You can't really pre-book these kind of things all the time, depending on
Mm.
the airline you go with. So it's really important to kind of have that conversation with them when you get on board. And sometimes they're like super excited and they're like, oh my God, yes, we'll take all of your stuff and we'll
Yeah.
put it in business class in the wardrobe, and then we're going to bring you out a glass of champagne to celebrate that you're getting married. So
Yeah.
that was the experience that I got, but it's not with every single airline. So it's something to definitely
Mm.
consider. Seasonality, jet lag, medications, I think on that, like just being really prepared. Look into the seasonality. You don't want to be going to these destinations in monsoon season or rainy season
Yeah.
where you can't actually enjoy yourself. Your guests will be really grumpy at you if you do that. Jet lag is a thing. It doesn't matter where you're traveling to. Like, Bali was what, 6 hours, something like
Mm.
that for me, and I still felt really tired the day I arrived. So we always kind of recommend 2 to 3 days prior to the wedding,
Mm.
just to settle in earlier if you can, because then you can
Yeah.
do hair and makeup trials and see the venue and menu tastings and all that fun stuff. But that's something to consider as well. And medications, just making sure, like these chemists, you can't, again, communication. You don't really know what you're getting at these chemists. You
Yeah.
can get medication, but I always recommend Panadol. What else? Hydrolat,
Imodium.
Band-Aids. Yeah, like everything. Just have everything possible and you'll be right.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, awesome. Alrighty, we're gonna go into questions. We do have a few, but keep them coming. The first one was around flowers. Is it best to source locally or to import? This specific person is anonymous, but is having a Bali wedding.
Yeah, awesome. I would definitely go local. A
Yeah.
lot of especially specifically Bali, they're quite good at sourcing florals that we have similar to what is in Australia. If you import, it's going to be quite expensive.
Mm.
Like I would have loved to have peonies. They're my absolute favorite, but to get something like that is quite expensive. So we just did, what was available to us, baby's breath roses, all those beautiful
Yeah.
flowers. In Fiji, it's probably, I would say, the hardest in terms of florals because they do really have only those tropical florals and they're quite bright oranges and reds
Mm.
and pinks and all that kind of stuff. So it is something you need to be flexible on. Like I said,
Yeah.
it's not something that you can get here in Australia, but depending on the destination, it is flexible.
Mm. And I would say just on that, like, with obviously, like, you're paying for it, you want it to be exactly what you're paying for, totally fair. One of the things that happened to me at my wedding was I had specifically asked for like white flowers and greenery, like fronds and stuff, because obviously I knew that the options were quite slim. And so I was just like, white and green, that's perfect. And then on the morning of the wedding, when I came out for breakfast, I could see them starting to set up, and there were pink and yellow flowers happening in the floral installations.
Oh.
And I was just like, firstly, my first reaction was like, that's not what I asked for. That's like the orange cake, like that's not what I asked for. And then I was like, look where you are. Like, you nobody's gonna remember the flowers, like everybody's gonna remember the backdrop, and everybody's gonna remember the feeling of being on this amazing holiday. So yeah, I think that was my experience with and my one of my bridesmaids actually ended up going to the wedding planner people and being like, that's not what she asked for, she just wanted the white, and take off the yellow and the pink, she only wanted the white. And so they did it, but at the time that was my mindset. What is the recommended time frame to start locking in vendors? You kind of touched on this, but do you want to repeat yourself?
Well, yeah, so vendors, I'm assuming you mean more so like suppliers and vendors,
Yeah.
like DJs, bands, and all that kind of stuff. Venue, I definitely reckon, 12 to 14 months if you can. I know that's not always possible, but the sooner the better. With suppliers and vendors, it is very similar. We really try and start talking to you about vendors, or our couples about vendors within 2 weeks of booking the venue, purely because Australian couples, like I said, they know what they want and there's not a lot of availability for what we want out there. So to get the suppliers that can really hit the nail on the head for what you're looking for, you need to get in there early. And the good thing about kind of coming through us is that we do payment plans, so you don't need to pay 1,000 different deposits in getting those locked in early. So we can kind of work with you and work with budgets to get those in earlier.
Awesome. And then the last question, I think this is the last question unless anybody wants to interject. I know it's 8:30. We've been here an hour already, but feel free to, I mean, we're here all night. But is wedding insurance really necessary in your opinion, or travel insurance?
Travel insurance, definitely. I always recommend travel insurance. You just never know what's going to happen, lost luggage, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Travel insurance, yes. And I always recommend, if you're going to go down the travel insurance avenue, add on all the extras, like the extra luggage, the jewelry, insurance, all that kind of stuff. Wedding insurance, we do highly recommend. It's something that just kind of covers all bases. You know, the venue do have their own terms and conditions in terms of like act of God, and you know, if something happened and there was a fire or whatever it might be. But wedding insurance really does cover you for any situation, and it is a little bit more expensive, but it's definitely worth it.
Cool. We do have one more question actually from Candice. Can you get good drinks packages in Bali with decent wine? That's a good one.
That's a really good question. Good drink packages, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I said, you can get 8-hour drinks packages with any cocktails that you want, spirits that you want, all that kind of stuff. Wine it has to be imported to a lot of these locations. So you can get good wine, but it is quite expensive to do so. A lot of our venues do offer BYO with a corkage fee, but you're going down to like the local liquor store and bringing like a case of the wine that you can get there. So it's not always the most amazing quality, but hey, wine is wine.
Wine is wine. I couldn't agree more. That inspired me to pour myself another glass.
I
know. We do have one more question. Any recommendations on wedding or travel insurance specifically?
This is a tricky one. We did currently partner with a company called Dream Wedding Insurance, but they're currently on hold for bookings. So we are currently looking into different suppliers. A lot of your normal travel agents or agencies do offer like wedding insurance or premium insurance that offers like the same sort of things as wedding insurance. So stay tuned on that. We will give you all of the updates as soon as we have someone new.
Awesome. If you have any last minute questions that you can think of, otherwise I'm going to wrap it up. While I wrap it up, please feel free to interrupt me though. Thank you all so much for coming. As I mentioned at the start, you will be receiving a replay, so I'll email you all tomorrow with your replay, and also just a little survey, because as I mentioned, if you were here at the very start, this was our first time actually running one of these, so we want to know how you felt about it. Like, did we do a good job? Would you come back? What would you want to hear about next time? Like, do you want to hear specifically about budgeting, or do you want to hear specifically about what suppliers we can help you find? Like, whatever you want, we obviously want to bring to you. That is our main goal with these. Was the time right? You know, all those kinds of things. So I will send through the replay and then also that survey tomorrow. But until then, I'm going to go watch the Married at First Sight replay personally, because that is part of my, nighttime routine. And thank you, Amelia, so much for answering all of those questions. We all value your expertise and advice so much. And thank you all so much for joining. It was so much fun. Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Have a good one. Bye. Thanks, Mills.